All right, and we should be live. Trying to get stuff up and running here. But I think that'll probably do it. All right, so today we are going to be making chicken pot pie for two. I'm using the America's Test Kitchen recipe. They actually have quite a few recipes for various types of chicken pot pie. And so I'm using the one that is their chicken pot pie for two people, which is just, it seemed appropriate since it's myself and one other person. So we're going to get started with heating up the oven to 450 degrees, which I'm going to just pop over here and quickly do. And it always defaults to 350, which is better than defaulting to 0, but sometimes I wish it would start at 400 because half the time I'm heating it up to like 450, and frankly, that just gets a little bit annoying to have to keep holding that button. Anyway, so that's preheating. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to grab a rimmed baking sheet. I'm going to set these out of the way for the moment. We'll get back to them in a couple of minutes. But I'm going to grab a rimmed baking sheet for right now. And I think we could probably just use this smaller one here. And I'm going to grab some parchment paper. Brand new roll of parchment paper. It's always nice when you, well, I was going to say when you first use it, but clearly somebody else got to it before me. And because this is so large, I'm going to trim this down along this line here, I think. If I could find a pair of scissors, which is sometimes easier said than done. Just before lockdown started, I went through and I bought a bunch of scissors. And now, here we are, several months later, and I have absolutely no idea where basically any of them ended up. Every now and then I'll find one and I'll put it back in the drawer, and they always seem to wander off again. Just one of those things, I suppose. All right. So we've got our parchment paper. So the first thing that this says to do is to, first off, probably mute that computer because I don't need that running. And cool. All right, so chicken pot pie. Got our parchment paper on our rimmed baking sheet. I'll pull out one of these. This is the first time that I have used ready-to-go pie crust. I've made my own before. I have never used ready-made stuff before. Let me change the camera just a little bit. Normally I'm better about making sure that this is all set up in advance, but just one of those days, I guess. Need to have a more permanent setup just ready to go. There you go. You can see my cat's. You can see my cat's dinner, which she is very bad about consuming entirely. She just sort of smushes it around. Anyway, I was saying I've never used pre-made pie dough before, so this should be interesting. Oof, it doesn't want to just come apart. I went out and I got this today, so it's, I think it's supposed to be a little bit colder technically when you roll it out. There we go. Oh, that's tearing. Come on, no, that's tearing too. Ah. It's okay, I can patch it. It's all tearing. Maybe I should have stuck it in the freezer when I got it home. Let's see here. Just need a little bit more space. I will say that even with this, it is definitely easier to do this than to roll out my own. And actually, I think I'm only using... I don't think I actually end up pulling out more crust, so I have another one here if this one ends up not working. Yeah. Or if I have any more issues with it. We're going to go ahead. We're going to try and make this work. So I'm going to try and, it says I need about 1/2 inch around. So I think that should work. I will probably need to pull out the other one because there's not enough room here. I had to go out and get these ramekins today because I was like, you know, I've got smaller things, but if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. Also, I really wanted some bigger ramekins, and I am absolutely bumping into the camera, aren't I? All right, I think that'll do for this one. Is there going to be enough there? There's not. Let's try rolling this. It's probably not going to work out as well, but otherwise I'm going to have an awful lot of wastage in each of these sheets, and I'd rather try and preserve them as much as possible. So let's try taking this section here, kind of putting it there. I think that should give me enough room around on all sides. Yeah, that should. I'm just going to grab this piece as a patch for that. And we could just kind of crimp it together. Yeah, that is the nice thing about pie dough. It's easily patchable. And yeah, definitely even with this pre-made stuff is still way easier. All right, let's see if I can get a nice cutout here. About 1/2 inch all the way around. It'll kind of follow that curve there. So we're really just looking for a bit over here. Doesn't need to be precise, just needs to be kind of close. I think that'll probably do it. All right. I've got a spare little bit of pie dough, so now I need to figure out what to do with that. I don't use a ton of pie dough, so I'll have to figure out something. All right, now we're going to take this and we are just going to fold under and crimp outer 1/2 inch of dough. Really? Fold under and crimp. Okay, so I guess I sometimes feel like America's Test Kitchen sort of overestimates exactly how good of a chef I actually am. Unless what they're talking about is just doing this, in which case, sure, I can fold over and pinch, but I really feel like they might mean something a little bit more elaborate, or I fear that they might. We will probably find out when the time comes to put the top on. We'll see if this fits or if it doesn't. I mean, I could test it now, I guess. That is definitely not a circle. But hey, that's what these streams are rapidly turning into. They're rapidly turning into, me coming through and trying something new. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, that's really not a huge surprise. That doesn't quite fit. So I can probably lose a little bit over here. There's really nothing like a little bit of experimentation to, learn new things. If that's the thing that people take away from these, it's certainly what I'm taking away from these. All right, I think this is just about crimped. A little bit of this pie dough here to kind of fill in a few of these gaps. This probably won't win an award for neatness, but that's okay. As long as it tastes good. All right, I want to make sure I don't have any edges that are up too high so that they don't get overly crisp when I'm par baking them, which is what we'll be doing next. It's sort of a circle. We're just going to cut a few vents in the top here. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to remove them or just I'm just going to twist these over. I think that'll look kind of nice. Who knows if it'll actually last, but it'll look pretty now. It really isn't momentary beauty, just as good as anything else. There we go. That actually looks kind of nice. All right, let's do this one over here. And we're just going to fold this bit up and over. Yeah, that one's not quite as nice. All right. So we're going to put this into the crust for put this into the oven for about 7 minutes. Then we're going to be setting it aside. So that's going in now. I'll be pulling that out in about 7 minutes. I'm going to put this other pie crust into my freezer because it says refrigerated, but I'm thinking freezer. I want that sucker to be cold. All right. So that's in my freezer. I'll have to just remember to pull it out if I decide to make pie, which actually sounds like a pretty solid idea now that I've said that. I've also got some puff pastry in there, so I could do something cool with that. Maybe some sort of chocolate-filled puff bar. I'm really not entirely certain. I haven't done a lot with puff pastry, but that is not the goal of today. Today's goal is chicken pot pie, which I've also not done. Okay, so we're going to be moving over in a minute to the stove, and we're going to start on the stove stuff. But first, I need to do some, let's see, it looks like carrots, onion, celery, and some salt. So I've got at least chop up some carrots, some onion, and some celery, which I fortunately have 2 of those right here, and I have the third one around here somewhere. We're reorganizing the kitchen a little bit to make it a little bit easier to find things, which has the effect that while that is going on, it's difficult to find things because you know where they were and not where they are. But we have all three of our things here. And we're just gonna, let's see, do we need to use the whole onion? Yeah, it looks like so. One small onion. This is a small onion, right? We can cut off a little bit more at the top and the bottom, which is good because it actually looks like it might be a little bit green at the top. And probably same at the bottom. Yeah, the bottom's fine. But the top at least is green, so we can make sure that we remove that. So we'll be chopping this up finely. Is it fine or is it finely? It just says chopped fine, so I don't really know. But whatever it happens to be, that's what we'll do. Give this a quick rinse. And also grab my favorite tool in the entire kitchen, which is, of course, the pastry knife and bench scraper. I've never used this for the pastry knife portion. I've always used it just as a bench scraper or possibly as like a knife for dough, which I guess dough is a type of pastry, or pastry is a type of dough, or I don't know. I don't think of it that way. So, but this thing is easily my favorite thing in the entire kitchen because it has that nice handle. You just scrape stuff off, and they are pretty cheap. That thing was like $5 or something off Amazon. They've got bigger versions that weren't that much more, but I was like, I don't need the big one. I just need the smaller one that's 6 inches across. All right, we're gonna chop this onion up fine. Yeah, we'll go like this. One of these days I need to really sit down and learn how to chop an onion like quickly, because there are some people out there that are really impressive and they're able to just like zip, 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 be done. I am not really one of those people. I'm okay at it, but I still do the whole, gather everything up, mince it a little bit more. It works for me. Hey, if it works for you, that's the important bit. We're gonna go ahead and chop this up. Then I should have grabbed my peeler earlier when I was kind of getting stuff prepared, but I didn't. So I'll have to figure out where I put that, because again, moving stuff around the kitchen means that you lose track of stuff for a couple of days. I haven't used it since whenever the last time we did carrots was. It's a nice fresh onion. I can get that little tang of it in my throat. A lot of people cry with onions, and they're always a little bit surprised when I say that I don't. I mean, I can tell when there's a fresh onion because it does get into my throat, and I get this little tickling / burning feeling, but I don't cry. I think it's something to do with the fact that I wear contacts, but I'm not really sure. Or I could just not be very sensitive to the whatever it puts out is I think it's some sort of gas when you rupture the membranes. Or it could be that I slice more than I, crush. Maybe I tend to work with sharper knives, and so less of the gas is released. I'm not sure. I've got friends that say that they just non-stop tears whenever they cut onion. And I'm sorry to say that I just can't quite relate, because it's always just been fine for me. I know perfectly well that I am the ultimate example of everything, and obviously if it works for me, it should work for everyone, but I don't know. Try telling people that and they start laughing at you for some reason. I haven't figured that out. Yes, I'm being funny for anyone that is unsure. I've been told that I'm a little deadpan, and it can be hard to tell, especially when you can't see my face, and all you can see is, my hands gesturing around, holding knives and other objects. What can I say? Alright, so for the celery rib, we're going to be slicing this into 1/4 inch thick slices, I guess. Start a little bit further off the bottom there. And then we're just going to kind of come through. And again, I'm just doing more of a slice and a chop. Try not to crush those cells, try and get in between them, so that we can retain that nice crunchiness, which even after we cook all of this, and I gotta tell you, this celery it smells incredible. It's got that great celery smell. Oh, this isn't the recipe that needs celery seeds, is it? Okay, good. I went out and I went shopping this afternoon. I've got to say, the Whole Foods pickup is fantastic, because you place your order online and you just drive up and they walk out and they hand you your food. And it is kind of magical, honestly, the first couple times that you do it. Same with, Target's doing it too. You just kind of drive up. They just ask for your last name. You tell them. They're like, okay, here you go. And then you drive off. It's kind of amazing. And I should probably be pulling that out of the oven, shouldn't I? Because I can smell it. Yep, just starting to turn brown, so that's just at the right point. I'm going to set that there to cool. It is definitely maybe slightly overdone. But not much, and that's the important bit. And worst comes to worst, I'll just put a little bit of foil on it in the oven. Okay, so we've got our celery. We're going to be dumping that at the same time as the onion, so I can stick that in the same bowl here. And I'm going to grab my, if I can find it, my peeler. Oh, there it is right in front of me, as they always are. We're just going to kind of come through. It looks like there's a spot there I don't really want to get. So I'll cut that out when the time comes. Anyway, yeah, going and picking up your order after placing the order online is just, it's magical. It does mean you can't inspect your food, which, I mean, I might have gotten something with slightly bigger carrots, but this is actually completely fine. And it was a pretty big bag of carrots, so I could have pulled out bigger carrots for this particular recipe. I never managed to go through everything anyway. So having some smaller things in there is not exactly a bad thing. Alrighty. Bench scraper. Okie dokie, let's go ahead and chop these up into just 1/4 inch thick. Cool. I like it when the instructions are simple. Is this the one? Nah, this one's fine all the way down. And again, this gets to go at the same time. So I'm just going to toss that in the same little bowl here. Didn't like that spot there at the end, so I got rid of it. There we go. There's that bit. And I just threw out all of those, didn't I? Because I was not thinking about it. Well, that's not great. Guess I'll have to go wash another carrot, which I will do right after I finish up with this one, which I will try very hard to not throw out, despite my apparent proclivity towards throwing out the carrot that I just painstakingly chopped. Yeah, if people wanted to watch professional chefs that rarely made mistakes, you go watch, I don't know. Can't think of any professional chefs at the moment. Oh, Chef Ramsay, I guess. So you go watch Chef Ramsay, or something else. I'd say Julia Childs, but I happen to know that she did make mistakes on purpose while filming in order to show people that it was okay to make mistakes, which is exactly what I'm trying to do here. This is all just a clever ploy to show people that it is okay to make mistakes, and that, you know, it's everyone does it. Yeah. That's definitely what it is. It's not because I got distracted and thought of something else and my brain went into autopilot. Not at all. It's absolutely down to just showing people what not to do. Fortunately, it's not exactly a difficult mistake to remedy. It just takes an extra minute or two, and time is something that I seem to have a lot of. Alrighty. And we're right back to where we were before, so. Other than, now hopefully my throwing that stuff away is going to get rid of my throwing away food tendencies. Here, I'll throw this one away specially so that I'm not tempted to do it again. I tell you, I can't tell how well it comes through on the microphone that I'm using, because I'm just using a microphone on a headset. But it really sounds, that crisp chopping just sounds great. I keep meaning to get another microphone to stick onto my camera, which is it's an old cell phone that I have rigged up that through some arcane wizardry to go back to my main computer and then stream out. But I keep meaning to get another microphone so that I can hear what's going on in the kitchen, because this is a headset. It's got big ear pods, but that would also let me put a microphone down here so you guys can hear, you know, the stuff that I keep talking about with the pots and pans bubbling, or when I'm chopping something that sounds really good. Like that celery just sounded so good when I was chopping into it. All right, but what we're going to do now is we're going to take the camera, we're going to go over to the stove. I'm going to show off the bit that I just did here with the crust. I'm going to adjust the camera. Got my parsley sort of wilting over here on the hot oven, so I'm going to move that back over here. And I mean, doesn't that look good? You'll look great just perched on top of the chicken pot pie. Oh yeah, that's cool enough. I can I don't need to worry about it too much. Probably wouldn't want to hold on to it for that long, but for a moment that's fine. All right, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be melting some butter. Because that's how this apparently starts. And in order to melt the butter, we're going to be needing to grab a pot. We're going to put on the small burner here because, as discussed a couple of weeks ago, the front right burner is my favorite burner on this stove. I don't know why, it just is. So we're going to pop that onto medium heat. I'm going to perhaps adjust the camera angle a little bit to show off this a little bit better and hopefully not get the corner of that microwave there, or at least not as much of it. Yeah, that should work. So we pop this onto medium heat, and I'm going to go grab however many tablespoons of butter I need. 2 tablespoons. 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Butter, butter, butter. The thing that makes everything taste good. Butter and salt. Are there any two things more, more used in baking and cooking than just butter and salt? I don't think so. And that is because they are delicious. And they make everything else delicious. Because that is what they do. All right, so that's 1 tablespoon. I'm cutting this up into quarters here, or halves for each tablespoon, so that it will melt a little bit faster. Put the butter away. Figure out what to do with that knife. I could just go over there for now. And let's see here. Once I melt the butter, I'll be adding in carrots, onion, celery, and a half teaspoon of salt, which is basically the other half of the things that make everything taste good. Really, it's butter and salt. That's it. That's all you need. You can make something out of just butter and salt, and there's a pretty good odds that it would be okay. There's probably actually something out there that is just butter and salt. Can't think of what it is, but I'm sure it's out there. All right. We're going to be cooking this and stirring for at least a little bit. Got that melted, so we're going to go ahead and pour all of these in there. So it's going to be our filling. And we're going to be cooking this until these are all soft. And maybe a little bit browned. Just going to add in, let's see, half teaspoon of salt. A bit more. I've noticed that they tend to undersalt things just a touch. Probably because they think that it's better to undersalt than oversalt, which is completely fair. Give this a big stir, and that's looking pretty good, if you ask me. We're on medium heat. And that'll just kind of soften in there for a couple of minutes. And while it does, we're going to need to chop up some garlic, which is probably a little bit easier if I bring the camera back over here. And adjust it again. One of these days I'll get another camera and I'll just set it up in each spot so that I don't have to keep adjusting things. I'll be able to just adjust it once at the start of the night, and that'll be it. I will probably talk about this for another month before actually doing anything about that. But hey, I'm talking about it, and that's something. And where did the garlic go? Tonight's theme is Ryan's just looking around for where things went. Every time you do anything, you need to have a theme, and that's tonight's theme. I'm just going to give all the vegetables a bit of a stir again, because they need it. That butter is smelling awesome. And we're going to need how much garlic? We're going to need to have 2 garlic cloves, which really means, in my mind, 3 garlic cloves. So we're going to need 3 garlic cloves, which we're just going to be mincing up. That's 1 clove. Oh, that's a nice big clove. Okay, so maybe those 2 garlic cloves. We'll call that what we need. That really is quite fast. Alrighty. Oh, man, that garlic smells so good. When you crush it, it starts to release the flavor a little. Alright. It's one of those things that J. Kenji Lopez Alt over at the Food Lab and Serious Eats, he talks about how he uses a pestle for everything. Wherever he has any sort of aromatics or spices that need to be combined so that they kind of blend nicely, he always uses a pestle to kind of crush them up a little bit because that releases a lot of the flavor. It bursts the cells that contain the flavor, and you get a much more flavorful thing. I do not have a pestle. I do, however, have a big old knife here. I'm just going to kind of press down on this, try to get some of that oil to release from within the garlic. Yep, that smells awesome. Alrighty. Time to stir the pot again. Those are looking good. They're softening a little bit. The onions are browning just very nicely. I'm pretty pleased with that so far. And then the other thing we're going to need is a couple tablespoons, or teaspoons rather, of fresh thyme. A teaspoon of fresh minced thyme, which I happen to have just the thing right here in my kitchen because I happen to have a fresh thyme plant. So this is straight off the bush. Get rid of that little bit of paper from the garlic. That little bit of paper from the garlic. I'm just going to mince this about as well as we can mince something that doesn't like to be minced. And this time I'm not doing the seesawing that I often do when I'm cutting things to slice. I'm definitely doing much more of the crunching straight down, and I can hear it, crunching. This might be slightly under a teaspoon. Yeah, that's going to taste pretty great. I'm going to grab a little bit more because it crushes up pretty small. Yep, that's looking pretty much like a teaspoon to me. I'll be putting this in at the same time as the garlic, so I'm just going to get them both up here on my pastry knife so that when that time comes, I'm going to go stir the pot again because I can hear some of the vegetables popping a little bit. Just trying to make sure they don't burn. I think those are getting pretty close. So I'm going to go ahead and bring the camera back over here. And adjust it again. I've kind of got it worked out where they need to go, so I don't really need to look at it too much. Getting better about it. And I've got the thyme and the garlic right here as well. So let's see here. This is really smelling good. You've got that little bit of melted butter, which of course smells awesome because melted butter always smells awesome. You get that nice little crackling sound of the vegetables in the pot. I'm just going to kind of let that sit for another minute or two to let them soften a little bit more. I really do need to figure out what to do with this little bit of pie dough here. I'll think of something. I'm just going to leave it there, kind of go back and look at it every now and then until I think of something to do with it. It'll come to me eventually. I can make a little mini pie. I don't know what I put in a mini pie. It wouldn't actually have hardly any room at all. Be like a 3-inch pie. But it could be fun. I'm still thinking something to do with chocolate. I need something with that flaky pastry that I have, or the puff pastry. And puff pastry and pie dough. Feels like there's definitely something there that I could do something with. Alright, and then after the garlic and the thyme, we're going to be stirring in some flour. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that. It's going to be just 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, which is pretty easy. I guess that'll be a nice little bit of thickener. A lot of places seem to use cornstarch for that, but I guess the America's Test Kitchen prefers flour in this instance, probably so that it blends with the tops of the crusts. And after that, I'm going to need broth, cream, and soy sauce. So I can do that. We're going to need chicken broth, which I think I used up the stuff in the fridge. Oh no, I've still got it here. So I've got that. Then cream. Got broth, I've got cream. Let's set these over here so they're not on the heat. And then some soy sauce. Just a half teaspoon of that is going to add a little bit of the, I guess it's a smoky flavor. Not smoky flavor. That's the wrong flavor there. It's going to add a little bit of that complex flavor that you'd otherwise have to simmer for a really long time. So I were to simmer this for a really long time with the with everything else, I wouldn't need that. But this is Wednesday, and as I believe the title of the video says, or the stream says, this is a weeknight meal. And weeknight meals are a little bit faster. I tend to be a little bit more complicated in my Sunday meals, because then I've got an entire weekend to kind of prepare from, and I do. But on weeknights, oh man, that thyme going in there just smells amazing. Weeknight meals are intended to be a little bit faster. They're stuff that I normally start at about 7 my time and finish up by usually about 8:30, which is it's a long thing for nightly cooking, but if you started a little bit early, you can eat by 7:30. Because normally I end the stream right as I am going into eat. All right, so that's that. We're going to grab a couple tablespoons of the all-purpose flour. All right, I think that's the next one, yes. Because that garlic and thyme is definitely fragrant. That's 1, 2, and 3 tablespoons of flour. I'm just going to stir that in. That immediately soaks up all of that, all of the water that was coming out of the vegetables. Immediately soaks all that up. And we're going to be grabbing the broth, and we're going to need 1 3/4 cups. I may need to go grab a little bit more broth. Yeah, so this was about a cup and 1/8. So I'm going to go grab some more broth. It's actually chicken stock. But fortunately, I've got quite a lot of chicken stock in stock. If you see what I did there, I made a joke about it being in stock when it's stock. I know, I'm very funny. And that's the 3/4. And put that away before I forget. We've got the heavy cream, which actually is pretty heavy. Get about 1/3 of a cup of this. That's maybe a little bit more like 1/2 cup, but that's okay. Just be a little extra creamy. And then about 1/2 teaspoon of soy sauce, because we're not looking at a ton of complicated or complex flavor. We're just adding in, a hint that there is something more going on, which is really the important bit. We're going to have this simmer for a little while too, which means anything we add is going to become a little bit more potent as time goes on. And that's about a teaspoon, or 1/2 teaspoon rather. Put that away. We're going to just let all of this simmer, I think. Okay, we're going to be nestling the chicken in. So one of the things that this recipe does is it cooks the chicken inside the sauce to reduce overall time. And I've had that chicken sitting over here kind of defrosting, because obviously I keep all of my chicken frozen. We're just going to go ahead and nestle that into the sauce here till it's kind of covered, or at least as covered as it gets. We're going to bring all of this up to a simmer and monitor while it starts to do that. And then once we have it simmering, we're going to kind of cover it up and let it sit and cook for about, it doesn't say exactly, we're going to get it up to about 160 degrees, probably about 10 minutes or so. And I will probably step away during that time, put the timer up on the screen. For anyone watching this back later, feel free to skip ahead unless you want the actual live stream experience, which, hey, I mean, I'm here for the live stream, so I can recommend that. Alright, so we've got that simmering now. So I'm going to go ahead, just cover that. And I'm going to reduce the heat down to, what do they recommend? They recommend medium-low. So I'm going to reduce this down to medium-low. And I'm going to go ahead and figure out where my timer went. It was here earlier. I really need to organize some of these things a little bit better, I think. There we go, stream timer. We're going to set this for about 10 minutes. Have that start, and then I am going to step away and just leave you with some nice, gentle, relaxing music while this bubbles away. So let's take a look here and see. That's kind of warm. That's a nice big cloud of steam. That smells amazing. See if the thickest part of this here. Nope, it is still not at 160 degrees. It's still got a little ways to go. It's only about 100 degrees, which is very much not where I really want it to be. But I think that might be because it is above the rest, and so therefore the heat is not really transferring to it. So if I can convince it to, I'm going to flip it over. I'm betting that this side is probably pretty close to 160 degrees. Given that a little bit, it is kind of singed on the bottom, and the entire thing was covered. Yeah, that bit there is doing just fine. It's the bit on the bottom that we need to worry about. So I'm going to give this probably another 8 minutes or so. So we're going to cover this up. I'm going to set that timer before I forget about it, because I've got a very bad habit of forgetting what time I said about things. I've got the timer running. Before I take everything back, I'm just going to kind of show off. I was doing some cleaning up, just putting away some stuff and getting ready for the next little bit. And I trimmed up my basil plants, as you do. And yeah, this is all of the basil that I got off of my basil plants just now. I've got two different types of basil. They are, I think this is sweet basil and this is Genovese basil. I can't remember which side was which. Anyway, lots of basil. I might need to make some pesto. So perhaps I'll do that in the next round of cooking stuff. I need to go through here. I've got some spots on the leaves where they got too close to the grow lights. So I've got to cut those off. And then I'll see how much I have left. And might make some pesto here in a little bit while the next round is cooking. All right, so I'm going to start the timer up again, go back to the soft music, and I'll see you in a couple more minutes. few minutes, so let's take a look. Nice lot of foaming there. It's looking pretty good. There's the thermometer. $153. So close. Another probably thinking maybe 2 or 3 minutes. Or somewhere thereabouts. So we'll just leave that there. I'm going to actually bring the camera over here rather than shut that off again. And I'm just going to kind of show off what I've been doing, which is prepping basil. And so I've got, like I was saying before, I do have 2 types of basil. So I've got Thai basil, which is, it's got spikier leaves than most people think of when they think of basil. It's also got these really nice flowers that kind of come up. That goes way out of focus, doesn't it? Okay, well, it's got these nice spiky flowers, which are very pretty. And I'm not really supposed to use those stalks, I don't think, because all of the resources end up going into the flower. But I'm pulling a few leaves off anyway. So I've got Thai basil, and I've also got Genovese basil, which is what most people think of when they think of basil. When someone says, oh yeah, basil, you think of Genovese basil. It's got broader, flatter leaves. Well, maybe not flatter, but it's definitely got broader leaves that are slightly richer green color. And when they get too close to grow lights, they'll start to burn, hence why some of these have spots. Actually, quite a lot of these probably have spots because they were growing up against the grow lights for a day or so while I was taking care of some other stuff. I didn't really notice that it was touching the grow lights. So that's on me. Should still be delicious though. I'm just not using the ones that are burned. I don't know that it's necessarily bad to use the ones that are burned, but it didn't seem like fun to me, so therefore I am not using the ones that are burned. So I'm just going to kind of pull these off here and just kind of see if I've got enough to make some pesto. Because pesto would be fun. It's one of those things you can kind of whip up fast. And I've got a food processor, so, you know, just going to check again here on the chicken. The cream really smells delicious in this. Yep, that appears to be 160, at least in that spot. Yep, that's good. And that's good. Cool. So we have now successfully cooked our chicken. So I will go ahead and bring the camera back. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be pulling out the chicken, and we're going to be putting it on a plate, letting it cool for a minute. Then we're going to shred it up. And while it shreds, where the sauce here is going to reduce down, because we've got a really nice sauce going. I feel like getting this out onto the plate. Might have taken some of the forks that it says I should be using. America's Test Kitchen people might know what they're talking about. They do actually have quite a lot of great recipes. I use their stuff a lot. Enough that I actually got a subscription to their site, which so far has been pretty nice. It's given me a lot of recipe ideas, and anytime I want to make something a little bit better than just the basics, I can go take a look at their stuff and at least get inspiration. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just leave this on medium heat for a minute. We're going to let it kind of simmer down and thicken. It's too thin right now. It's all liquid right now. And we really want that to thicken up and become a nice sauce around the vegetables that we've put in here, which are also softening up nicely. And let's see here. We're going to be getting some peas as well, so frozen peas, which I should probably pull out. I'll be chopping up some parsley because parsley is awesome. I swear I had peas right here just before everything started. Okay, well, I'll find the peas in a minute. I've got green beans. I could put green beans in this. But peas, parsley, a little bit of lemon juice, and then, of course, some more salt and pepper just to taste. Once I've got all that in there, it's going to, it'll be all stirred up. That'll be our filling, and we're going to fill up our ramekins and put our crusts on top. We'll be putting it into the oven again on the baking sheet, and we're just going to let that be in there for about 10 to 15 minutes, thereabouts. Just long enough to kind of get that filling all nice and hot and integrated with the crust, which will get to a nice golden brown color, hopefully, if all goes well. If all doesn't go well, then that stuff won't happen. I don't know what'll happen then. I guess I'll figure that out if that happens. I'm going to go ahead and shred this chicken. I'm actually not entirely certain that I'm in frame. I think I'm not. So, I mean, it's a pretty standard 2 forks, 1 chicken. Just kind of get everything all nice and shredded. Try and make sure we've got lots of pieces in there that will go really well with the rest of it. Any bits that aren't suitable for that can be pulled out now. Which is actually what I'm doing for this little bit right here, which no one can actually see because I don't have the camera pointed at it. Try to think of what to do next time. It's been a while since I've really made any soup. I haven't made soup in a while. Maybe broccoli cheddar soup. That'd be pretty good. Yeah, just something to think about. Try to come up with these things a little bit in advance, but sometimes it's not till the day before. Then I try to schedule these streams in advance so people know when they are. But generally speaking, I'll be streaming on Sundays and Wednesdays in the evenings, my time, which is Central Time, from about starting at either 7 or 7:30, and then lasting till approximately when it's done, which I try to size everything to be within an hour to an hour and a half on weekdays, so on Wednesdays, and within 2.5 hours on Sundays, because Sunday is sort of a weeknight, because I work Mondays. Oh, I should have let that sauce thicken a little bit more. Drat. Wasn't even thinking. Oh well. I'm sure it'll be completely fine. We're just going to go ahead and stir that in. It had already been going for at least a little bit, so we should be okay. That smells amazing, I've got to say. So we're going to turn off the heat here. We don't really want the chicken to keep cooking as much. I'm going to grab those peas that I couldn't find, which are here somewhere. I blame the fact that I used them yesterday. And I was like, oh, I don't need to put them right back there. I'm just going to set them right up. Yep, there they are. Right where I was like, oh, I'll just put them here because it'll be easy for me to find them tomorrow. And I'm running just low enough that that meant that I couldn't figure out where they went. All right, so we're going to do about a quarter cup. I'm not too concerned if it's a little bit more than that. I like peas. Okay, that's a little bit over a quarter cup. It's probably more like half a cup. Again, I like peas. So, it doesn't bother me. I'm making sure to put those back in a place that I will absolutely remember them, which means I won't be able to find them again next time. That sauce is thickening up quite nicely. This is really looking good. And that's our peas, our parsley. Let me mince up that parsley, which I'm doing off camera rather than bring the camera over. This might have been a little bit more parsley than I really needed, but that's okay. Whoever said there's too much parsley on this? I mean, apart from all the people that have said there's too much parsley on this. I would assume all those people had said it because they did. But apart from those, yeah, this is really more like a tablespoon. I only need, I think, 2 teaspoons. Yeah, 2 teaspoons. So that's about 1 teaspoon. And that's roughly just over another, and I'll just give it an extra little pinch just for good luck. And I will deal with the rest later. I'm going to grab some lemon juice. For a little splash of citrus. And we're going to put in about a 1/4 teaspoon or approximately whatever I feel looks like that much. Just probably about there. Might be a little bit over, but that's okay. So we're going to go ahead and stir all this in. Just going to give this a quick taste. That tastes pretty good. I could definitely use some more salt, because salt is amazing. A bit more than just that. And I'm thinking it also could use some pepper. See, is it? All right, let's see how that is. I feel like I could probably use a little bit more of both of those. I'm just kind of guessing, but It's always better to put in a little bit less than you think you're going to actually need. Oh no, that's awesome. Yeah, that's really good. All right, perfect. So we've got all of this. I think it is time to fill our ramekins, pop the tops on, toss it in the oven so that we can eat it all sooner rather than later. And by we, I mean my partner and me. Because unfortunately, anyone watching this is not here. Go ahead and grab a ladle. Just going to kind of ladle it because I'm concerned about the chicken maybe being a little bit more on the top, so I'm trying to make sure that I'm getting equal amounts of chicken in there. These are really looking and smelling good. Come on, get off the ladle. There we go. I'm going to grab that wonderful scraper again. And then kind of come along here. Let's see how well this works. Oh yeah, that works out pretty well. Alrighty, so that I think is that. That's still too hot to set anything on. That's okay. Yeah, these crusts are definitely a little bit too large. So I'm just sort of resting them on top. But I think that'll probably be okay. Maybe. We'll find out. Because, yeah, just come right off. But I'm thinking that any steam that comes out is going to kind of soften it. I'm betting this is probably going to kind of collapse down in. But that's okay. It'll kind of rest on top of the ramekin, or on top of the filling, which should be just fine. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pop this into the oven. It's probably going to be a two-handed operation. The oven is nice and hot. Hot, hot, hot. Alrighty. And I'm going to try to get the camera angled to look in, as I have done before with varying amounts of success. Yeah, that looks reasonably okay. Alright, I'm going to keep kind of cleaning up here and getting stuff ready. I'm thinking I don't have enough leaves here for pesto for the basil, which is a pity. So I'm just going to go back and put on the music again. I'm going to set a timer for, let's see, what did this say? This recommended 10 to 15 minutes. So we're going to try 10 minutes. And we're just going to see if that does it. I'm betting that'll probably get it pretty close. And All right, I'll see you in 10 minutes. I'm just grabbing this a few minutes early because I was looking, and that's definitely a nice golden brown color. So I'm going to pull this out before it burns and see if I need to either tint it with foil or if it's done. Because that is definitely golden brown, erring on the side of perhaps slightly singed. Not a big deal, but not quite where I would prefer it to be. I would say that filling looks like it is bubbling to me, given that it is trying to climb, ow, that's hot, out of this. Well, actually, no, it's really not. No, it is. Cool, so I think that this is done. I'm going to let these cool for a few minutes. As you can see, they did get slightly brown on top, but hey, it's my first time, so I think that given that, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end this here. So thank you so much for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to do all of the stereotypical YouTuber stuff that people on YouTube tell you to do, which is to, what is it? It's like, subscribe, hit the bell icon so that you're notified of new things or something. I don't know. I should probably pay more attention when people talk about that stuff on YouTube. But anyway, thanks for hanging out, and hopefully you do next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day.